Okay, we're back with another Ikoria Limited traditional draft here. So we've got pack one, pick one, and let's see what we're looking at. So Narset, I've never actually gotten to play with Narset as a Planeswalker. I haven't played with any of the Planeswalkers in this set, actually. So I think I'm going to pick Narset just as like this fun kind of mythic. Not really sure where we're going to go. She obviously fits into the spells deck. And we're not missing a lot here. After Narset, the best pick is probably the Dreamtail Heron, or maybe the Humble Naturalist, but we're going to take the Mythic and just kind of see where we end up.
I'd prefer a peaceful resolution.
Okay,
But I
wow.
must.
Wow. Somebody passed an extinction event. Um, Maybe the best black rare in the set. Definitely one of the top rares in the set. And they picked a common out of here. Now, normally, if all the rares and uncommons are here, and they picked a common, I would assume they picked Blood Curdle, as it's the best removal spell in the set. And it's pretty splashable. But why would you not pick the black rare? This makes me think that they probably took one of the cycling cards. People are really big on cycling right now. Rightfully so. It is the best deck in the format. Um, so maybe they took like a Drain This Stinger or a Marmoset, and they're really trying to force cycling. But we're going to take this Extinction event and be pretty happy with that. Okay, so we're going to take Bastion of Remembrance, great black card. Maybe black's best uncommon. Um, and it basically drains your opponent every time a creature dies, so they lose one and you gain one, which can really make stalemates or board positions hard. If you can get your opponent down to like even 10, and then you have enough tokens, enough creature generators, you can say you have to win the game without killing 10 more creatures, which can be very hard for them. Um, and so this is a really good card. So we're going to take this. I'm a little confused because Reptilian Reflections here, which, unless there was also a Zenith Flare, I have to imagine that's the cycling card you would take. We're hoping to wheel either the Commando or the Whisper Squad out of this pack. Okay, wow, another reflection. Really not sure what that person pack one picked one who's passing to us. So we're probably gonna take the Space Godzilla as it's black. I think we're definitely leaning towards black here. Um, with this extinction event in the Bastion. It's unfortunate we're probably not playing Narset at this point. If we wanted to, we could take a Divine Arrow. Actually, I might take a Divine Arrow. As Bastion's best in black-white humans, and this kind of leaves us open to maybe playing Narset. We'll see. It's still unlikely, but maybe. Divine Arrow or Rumbling Rockslide? Actually, I'm gonna take Rumbling Rockslide. I didn't even notice it here. The Divine Arrow was covering it. This is the best, probably red removal spell outside of Fire Prophecy. It's a little bit cheaper, but hits only smaller things. And black red's also very good. Oh, and just like that. So Labyrinth Raptor is not exactly what you want in this kind of like sacrifice deck, but it's just a good card. It basically, whenever a creature you control with Menace becomes blocked, defending player sacrifices a creature. So all of your Menace creatures immediately are going to get better, as your opponent will have to sack if they want to block them. So that's pretty good. So we're going to take it, and I think this is a pretty good signpost also that maybe Black-Red's open. And wow, we can follow it up with Howlbonder. So Howlbonder is a great card. I am tempted to pick the Coil Bug because it's very good in the Black-Red Sacrifice deck, but we don't have any of the Sacrifice outlets. And we do right now have a Menace payoff, so I think I'd rather take the Menace Enabler, or maybe you could even call this another payoff, instead of taking the Sacrifice Enabler with no Sacrifice payoffs right now. And I think at this point, Narset's going to get moved into the sideboard. Wow. So something to talk about, something that I think people are still undervaluing, even though a lot of great resources like Lords of Limited and Limited Resources have come out and said, hey, these Cycling 1 cards are good. And they're just not getting picked up. If you see a card with Cycling 1 and it's mildly playable, what you can really think is, I can throw this in my deck for no cost. This is a 16 land format most of the time. Um, and so you can play this as your 24th card, and it's, you can think of cycling one as a third of a land in a worst case scenario. So we're going to take this and be pretty happy. Okay, so here we have a couple choices. We have the Lurking Deadeye, which is pretty good. We have Sanctuary Smasher, which is pretty good. And we have this Tentative Connection. Tentative Connection's really good in the Menace Black-Red Sacrifice deck, which is kind of where we're going, but we just don't have the Sacrifice outlets yet. I think Lurking Deadeye is really good. And I also like Sanctuary Smasher, which I'm going to take here just because of the cycling. And cycling is such a good fallback point where I have two cards of, I think, pretty comparable power level in the Deadeye and the Smasher, but just having cycling gives it that small edge. Okay, and we're really happy to see a Night Squad Commando. Allows us to go wide, makes that Bastion a little bit better. Our Labyrinth Raptor right now is our only 2-drop, but it's very hard to block 2-drop, which makes enabling the Commando a little bit easier. Hey, Cathartic Reunion's not a bad card for us to pick up here. It helps you deal with floods. You'll play it. Great sign here. Seeing this Whisper Squad tells us that people are not valuing it. This is a great card. Easily in Black's top 3 commons. And Black's pretty stacked. I would say Blood Curdle is definitely number 1. In Draft, I think Deadweight's number 2. And then either Whisper Squad or Bushmeat Poacher is number 3. Nothing here. We're going to take this Rugged Highlands to splash if we need to. In case, we could open like a Quartzwood Crasher or something like that. Sleeper Dart, not going to be really useful, but we'll take it. Perimeter Sergeant kind of tells us that Black-White Humans is open here. So what do we have here? Our rare is Mythos of Snap Decks. So if we were in Black-White, I think we'd easily snap this up if we had gone like the Black-White Humans route, which we could have. But I think we're pretty heavily agreeing that we're going to be red here with the Raptor, the Rock Slide, and the Smasher. So after that, I think I just like to pick up a Deadweight. Early interactions really good in this format. And we're not on the Reanimator plan of Black, which is where the Void Beckoner really shines. Okay, so we have a couple choices here. We have Call of the Death Dweller, which pretty decent reanimate spell, especially in this deck where you play both 1 and 2 drops. Being able to, make a Whisper Squad that's a 1/1 with Death Touch and then get back a 2-drop and give it Menace is very powerful in our deck. But we have Durable Coil Bug, which is one of those 2-drops that's very powerful, very good here. We have Memory Leak, once again, talking about those 1-mana cyclers, but ultimately we're picking Fire Prophecy. It's the best red common. It's very cheap removal. And on top, even if this was a card that just said 2, deal 3 damage, it'd be great. But the fact that you get to cycle is how I'm going to describe that, or rummage by putting it on the bottom, is really good. Okay, so we have another pack here. So we have a couple choices. Bushmeat Poacher is definitely on brand for what we want to be doing as far as, playing these sacrifice things is Black-Red's kind of wheelhouse. But we have a Grim Dancer, which also fits Black-Red's Menace theme. And I think already having a Labyrinth Raptor and a Howlbonder, I'm fine just taking what is the better card and probably more synergistic to the deck we have right now. I think the best Black-Red decks are the Sacrifice decks. But I think we don't have all those pieces just yet. Okay, so what do we have here? Cathartic Reunion, okay. We're going to take this Hemophage as a 3/3 Death Touch. Death Touch plays great with Menace. So, putting this on even like a Labyrinth Raptor right now is really good. Putting this on, even if you're just like, you pick Menace Lifelink for your Grim Dancer, and then you want to mutate onto it to finally give it that Death Touch. That's great. So we're going to take this Hemophage here. And a 4-mana 3/3 Death Touch is a great fail case when it comes to not being able to mutate. Okay, so we're going to take probably another Howl Bonder. There's not a lot for us here. We are seeing a lot of these tentative connections, which I do like. So I'm hoping I can sweep up one or two of these on the wheel, probably, along with one of those bushmeat poachers. Okay, here we're going to take... This is tough. Duskfang Mentor's okay. I think we're going to take the Deadeye, though. I think, well, actually, we're going to take the Mentor. I think having a little bit of lifelink is very good, especially because the scariest deck in the format to me, and I think most people would say the best deck in the format, is that red-white cycling deck. And a little bit of lifelink can go very far in that deck when you are attempting to outrace them. Not a lot for us here. White was clearly very open, which is interesting. We definitely saw like those late blade banishes, but I didn't feel like I was seeing all-star white cards last pack. We're going to take a Gloom Pangolin. It's just a 3-drop we probably won't play, but you can always side it in against a very aggressive opponents. Tigerilla is a great find for us here. Fits that Menace sub-theme. It's a great 4-drop. Very happy to pick up that. Wow, there's just no one drafting white. That's clear. Nobody wanted to take a double white card. What is everybody drafting? Because I feel like our deck is pretty hooked up. So what is everyone drafting? They're just all in on green and blue. But we're gonna take Mythos of Snap decks for reasons. I don't know. Maybe we get and then we get our Call of the Death Dweller. Great for us too. Enables Menace, gives you death. We'll get our Coil Bug. Yep, very happy with that. We can take up a tentative connection here. We'll take another tentative connection. So next pack, we're really looking for those sacrifice enablers. I passed a couple of them here, but we're really looking for that. So we're not playing this. So we don't have any of the sacrifice enablers. Another Deadweight could be good. Another Duskfang Mentor might not be bad. I think I'm going to take a Sanctuary Smasher, though. Menace really encourages your opponent to kind of make these blocks where they might, they might have like 2/2/2s blocking your 3/3 Grim Dancer. And being able to give it first strike in that case is really good. So I really like this kind of fail case of, just a 3-mana cycler. And we don't need another Duskfang Mentor. Deadweight's a possibility. But I think we have enough low drops and we can get more. Actually, I'm going to pick up the Deadweight. The more I looked at it, the more I convinced myself away from it. So here, we're probably going to take another... We don't actually have a Lurking Deadeye. So we're going to take a Lurking Deadeye as a combat trick. In the same way with Menace, if your opponent blocks, your 3/3 with 2/2/2s, you can have 1 damage left over, and the Lurking Deadeye will take them out. We'd really like to see him mobilize the monsters here as like a sacrifice payoff. And that way, then we're really kind of doing it. We have the tentative connection. We can take our opponent's creatures and sacrifice them. But we'll see. I think our deck's pretty good right now. I think we're going to have to make a couple cuts depending on how this pack shakes out. But I think our deck is very good. Unbreakable Bond, so that is the the Reanimator payoff. If we had taken those Void Beckoners, we'd be snapping this right up. But we're going to take this Cavern Whisperer as just a, worst case scenario, 5-mana 4/4 Menace, which kind of fits into what we're doing here. But you can also throw it on a Coil Bug, or you can throw it on a Grim Dancer, and kind of make your own thing going there. So we're going to take this. Okay, we're going to take probably a Necropanther. Actually, we're going to take Rumbling Rock Slide. Just notice this. And we're still on the lookout for some of those sacrifice enablers. There it is. Wow. So we're hoping this Whisper Squad will come back around, but we're very happy to get Weaponize the Monsters. Probably the best sacrifice payoff. If we can get now 1 Poacher in, the next 3 packs, wow, just on time. So we're really happy. Here, we're going to take the Poacher. The Tigerilla is really good, but we need these sacrifice payoffs if we want to play these tentative connections in our deck. And right now, I think these tentative connections are very playable in our deck, so that's a great find for us. Because right now we have, let's count our menace, creatures, and enabler, basically. So we have the, oh, now we're back to our pick. Ooh, Offspring's Revenge is a very good card. I don't know if we can play it. If we can get some fixing, we can. But this is a very playable card in this style of deck. So we're going to take it. It's unfortunate we're seeing that black-white duel in the same place. Let's go back to counting our menace. We have a Raptor. Death Dweller can give us menace. Grim Dancer can have menace, so that's 3. We have 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 menace creatures right now, so that's pretty good. None of these are particularly interesting to us. We could play Savai Crystal if we really wanted to splash this Offspring's Revenge, but I think a Dark Bargain's a fine pickup. We might not play it. We probably won't play it. I don't think we're going to play any of these. The one we're most likely to play is probably the Mentor. But I just don't see us playing that at this point. So I'm just going to take the Ultimatum so no one else can have it. A little bit of rare drafting. There's nothing here that's really interesting to us. If this gave Menace, we'd be all over it. But we'll take the 1-mana Cycler, I suppose. Once again, nothing really interesting here. Wow, that cycling deck, I guess, was very open. We're happy to get another Whisper Squad, though. We'll probably play Whisper Squad, even with just 2. We really would have liked to see more. I don't think more were opened. We just didn't see more. Okay. So let's kind of look at what we got going here. So let's get rid of all these lands. So like I said, this is a 16 land format, and right now we're at 30 cards. So we are going to drop 6 cards. I think it's really easy to drop the Offspring's Revenge. A general idea is you would like to play 4 sources for a splash. So we'd want to play 4 white sources. And in this deck that has no other fixing, that would just mean playing 4 planes, which is, that's a lot for us. So we're not going to be doing that. So now we can start looking at other things here. So we have a lot of good cards here. I think we can cut some things, though. But what? So we need to cut 5 more cards. I think we're pretty happy with all of our 1-drops. I think our 2-drops, we might cut Cathartic Reunion, so we can move that there. Duskang Mentor is okay. We didn't end up with, a great set of, creatures to put on it, though, so we're going to probably be cutting that. Otherwise, we're very happy with this. We're very happy with all of these. Memory Leak's pretty good. We are happy with this. What do we have to kind of mutate onto? We have the Coil Bug, the Raptor, the Grim Dancer. That's probably enough. Especially when, like I said, the fail case is you're playing a 4-mana 3/3. Lurking Deadeye is pretty good in this deck, I would say. Especially when we can just weaponize the monsters to ping something bigger and then play a Lurking Deadeye. Dark Bargain might not be played. We should look at our removal suite to see if we want to play all these tentative connections. We did only get 2 sacrifice outlets, so that's not a guaranteed kind of home run. Then we have Cavern Whisperer and Sanctuary. So I think I'm happy cutting these 3, which means I need to make 2 more cuts, which could just be these 2 tentative connections. So for removal, early removal, we have the Deadweight, we have the Fire Prophecy. For late removal, we have 2 Rumbling Rock Slides, and then we also just have to weaponize the monsters. So we could cut this, and I think that'd be fine. And then our deck is probably pretty good at that point, and we're just happy kind of using our own sacrifice outlets. So we could sacrifice Whisper Squads, we can sacrifice tokens from Commandos and Bastions, and things like that. We could also, no, I was thinking about maybe cutting the Memory Leak and cutting 1 connection, but I think this is fine as what we're doing. We would have liked to get maybe a little bit more kind of like token generation. Forbidden Friendship's a really good 2-drop. that can help with these. But we did kind of end up more on this menace side of the equation with some sacrifice enablers. So I think we can cut these. If we see our opponent has a lot of really large creatures, we might cut the dead weights and then bring those in as they kind of help us deal with bigger creatures that we can sacrifice off. But I think I like dead weight in the main. Really, it's really good against that red-white cycling deck, which is probably the scariest game one deck. And other than that, I think our deck has a lot of power behind it. So we're obviously going to be mostly red or mostly black. 18-9. So we can add our lands in. Probably 8-6, I would say, is right. No, that's 9-7. Probably right. Especially when we don't really need to hit this as an early drop. We do want to play these early. And then Smasher can always be cycled if we can't get double red. But for double black, we do want to hit our Grim Dancer. Okay, so let's take this out. I haven't really played the Menace version of this deck. So I'm interested to see how this goes. I think having those Howl Bonders is going to make our deck a lot better. When we do kind of get to play out our Menace creatures and say, hey, do you have 3 blockers for every one of my creatures? Because if not, that's a problem. And when your opponent's kind of forced to have 3 blockers, it definitely makes your removal go a little bit further. Because it's not like they can just 1-for-1 trade. So we're going to play first. We're really happy with this hand. So we're going to Whisper Squad turn 1. Turn 2, we're going to get another Whisper Squad. Turn 3, we can always cycle. And then turn 4, we have a Rock Slide. So this is a very defensive opening hand. But I think this is a fine hand. It's always okay to just kind of fill up your board with these Whisper Squads and know that later you can cash them in for a card off of Bushmeat Poacher or, a shock, basically, out of Weaponize the Monsters. Okay, so our opponent's deciding what to do here. And they have decided to keep on 7. So we're going to play our Whisper Squad. And okay, so Mountain is perhaps the scariest opener. And just like that, we have something to kind of cash in our creature. So we're going to attack. There's really nothing for 1 red that I can think of off the top of my head that would be scary to us here. So we're just going to attack, and like I said, we're going to get a Whisper Squad at the end of their turn. Pass. Yep. Grab a Whisper Squad. So obviously we would be happy playing this with more Whisper Squads, but 2's fine. I think 2 you definitely don't want to play 1 Whisper Squad. But 2's fine. And we'll end our turn. So I don't think we're going to cycle the Sanctuary Smasher here, because we found a better play. So if our opponent didn't play anything we wanted to Rock Slide, and we also had nothing else to do, we'd probably cycle, just to find a turn 4 play we want to play. But we have the Poacher, and so we want to play Poacher. So we're perfectly fine just playing it. And then turn 5, kind of have this option to start eating creatures. Our opponent might be stuck on lands, or they're thinking about their land drops. So we'll see what comes out of our opponent. The fact they haven't cycled makes me feel like they're probably not the cycling deck. Unless they're about to play an enabler and then they're just holding their cycling. Okay, so they might be cycling. So we'll see how this goes. We really don't want them to play... Oh, that's not scary at all, actually. That's fine. Yep, we're perfectly happy. Our opponent does kind of know now we only have 2 Whisper Squads, but there's not a lot you can do about that. No attack? Okay. Interesting. Definitely not what I was expecting. So like I said, this is a worst case scenario 4-4 Menace. We're not going to play it because we kind of want to be able to hold up First Strike on the Bushmeat Poacher. in case they decide to attack for some reason. Not sure what that reason would be. And we also want to be able to eat a creature this turn. So we're basically blocking here. If they offer it to us, we'll just block and see what they have. And if it's a combat trick that we can win with first strike, that's fine. Okay, so we're just going to eat a creature here so that we can draw a card. So that's a little unfortunate. This does stop him from blocking with this turn. Or, I'm sorry, with attacking with this turn. So we're going to take 3. Not a huge loss here. No blocks. Okay. Would like to stop drawing lands right now. We have half of our lands in the top 14 cards of our deck. And we're going to just play this Sanctuary Smasher. It's a 6/4 first strike. It's pretty big. And it's going to be a little bit harder for our opponent to deal with, hopefully. And if they do have another fight spell, then at least it's a 2-for-1 trade. Okay, they have their own Sanctuary Smasher. Okay, would like to stop drawing land. So we're gonna Rumbling Rockslide this. And we're gonna attack. So we're okay attacking and kind of trading and putting pressure on our opponent. Next turn, we can give this Menace even and cause our opponent to discard something. So that's pretty good for us. They're cycling, which tells me they're probably looking for an answer for the Smasher. Okay, let's see if they attack. Yep, that makes sense. Pass, no blocks. We're not blocking here yet because if we top deck a weaponize the monsters, we can just shoot this and kill it. Our turn. Extinction event. Even, odd, even, odd. So we're not going to name anything just yet. We are going to attack. Okay, our opponent has a Divine Arrow. So we're going to play this Cavern Whisperer as just a 4/4. And what's probably going to happen here is our opponent's going to attack with their 4/3. We're going to take it, and we're really going to hope that they play another even creature. Now that's not even, so our opponent zagged us there. And that's not great for us. So we could block and then just name odd and wipe the board, which I think is what we're going to do here. He's deciding he wants to deal 4 to me. Nope, he's going to trade. Okay, so especially, we're flooding out just a little bit. So we're going to attack. And the reason we're going to do that is your opponent might just let you get damage through because they're scared of a lurking Deadeye. Then we can play our Extinction event. And we're going to name odd, just make sure. 5 is odd, 3 is odd. And now we're just in a good old-fashioned top deck with our opponent. We've drawn quite a few lands. We've drawn 9 lands. So we're hoping, we can top deck some good spells here. We're just going to Rumbling Rockslide that. Our Raptor would be a really good draw here. Anything like that's a great draw for us. Anything that kind of has some evasion. So we're going to cycle this. I don't know what my opponent's holding, but it's probably just removal. And we're just looking to push through damage at this point. And we're just going to have to find more threats. Because if they have 2 removal spells, getting rid of one doesn't get us too much further. Wow, they just had another creature. Okay, Bastion's not a bad find there. That's a pretty good find, actually. We do have to find an answer to this Jubilant Skybonder. We've used both our Rumbling. We haven't used our second Deadweight yet. It's not a bad find either. So we're going to take Lifelink Menace. I assume he has a removal spell. We're going to block. Okay, and we're going to attack. We got through. That's kind of shocking. And we're going to pick Menace again. So let's see how our opponent attacks here. I really feel as if our opponent has something to give this double strike instantly. So I don't think I want to. I really just want to find a removal spell for this. I don't think I win by blocking here and losing one of my creatures. So that's a pretty good find. So we're going to attack. And so this can pump our creatures too. So if he wants to... He should have, before I went to attackers, killed this, I believe, if he wanted to not have to sacrifice. But I'm not 100% sure. I've actually never played with this raptor, so I'm not entirely sure how that would work. We're just going to pump. Not sure what tricks there could be or anything like that, but... Looks like there was nothing. But always better to, you know, just play it safe. So our opponent on black or red-white, not really sure what kind of flavor of red-white this is. Red-white is the cycling deck is supposed to be their wheelhouse, but it feels like our opponent's not on the cycling deck. The mentors make me feel like they're supposed to be like a human, non-human kind of deck is their plan here. But I'm not really sure. It didn't seem like they had many big creatures where you'd want to bring in these tentative connections. And it, you know, our deadweights had ample targets. So we're just going to run it back. Okay, we're just waiting for our opponent to sideboard here. So we'll see what ends up happening with that. I would generally not read into that if your opponent is spending time on the sideboarding page that they are changing their deck in a drastic way. A lot of people just sideboard as, you know, a chance to go grab some water, to go to the bathroom. So I think that's the kind of thing some people are like, oh, they're sideboarding for a very long time. Like, I wonder what they could be doing. And the answer is usually just taking a break from Magic for a minute. Okay, so our opponent gets to decide what they'd like to do. Wow, I really want to keep this. Like, if we just find a mountain off it, we'd have to hit running lands, but having that dead weight and then just like hitting a mountain and going Raptor into Grim Dancer is so strong. Not even accounting for this weaponize the monsters over here. But we have to mulligan this. So I think you keep this on the idea that if we hit a land, we can fire Prophecy for another land. And I think we're gonna put back Sanctuary Smasher. It's just our most unplayable card. Because if we hit 3 mana, we can play Grim Dancer. Well, so then we're gonna put back the Lurking Deadeye actually. So this is pretty similar to the last hand, except it does something at 2 mana. And I don't think going to 5 is generally a way to win the game. Did we get punished here? Yes. Was it right to go to 5? Maybe. But we still have game. Okay, so we hit a swamp. This still costs. Yeah. Okay, we can't do that. So just end our turn. A little unfortunate that that's happening, but okay, so that's pretty good for us in that we have a play here. We're gonna kill the Tigerilla, and we're gonna probably discard this Cavern Whisperer, or probably probably the Cavern Whisperer, because I think if we can kind of get Grim Dancer online, there is a decent chance that we can race with Lifelink, and I like being able to get it back. So we're gonna put the Cavern Whisperer there. Okay. That's a great draw, so things are working out here. So we're going to pick Death Touch, Lifelink, which is a little odd that we're not picking Menace in our Menace deck. But I think we want to be racing if possible. And the fact that we can give it First Strike really incentivizes us to have Death Touch. Now, our opponent obviously might just remove it, but this is a great situation where if they want to block it, they need to keep both of them back. So they can't really block here. And a lot of our opponent's hard work is now kind of undone. We are going to kill this now that we just have the time to. So I'd say we're in a pretty good spot here. Obviously, things could be better. We are down a card just from mulliganing. Our opponent playing a Cloud Piercer. Okay. So we're going to attack. Because if we're attacking and they block, we get to cycle. And if they don't block, we're just going to play the Bushmeat Poacher. So, in the board state we have now, our opponent gets to attack for 5, but we get to attack for 3 in game 3. So, we're taking, 2 a turn. They're taking, 2 a turn because they're gaining 1. So, we're in a stalemate, so I don't feel the need to kind of pressure the board in any way. Now, that getting Menace is a little bit scarier. And that might cause us to, next turn, keep the Grim Dancer back. I think they're deciding if they just want to attack with the Alert Heatbonder. It's probably free. I would attack. I'm tapped out. It's representing a trick. There's like a 0% chance that I, don't block. So now we have this Death Touch creature. So I think we're going to do exactly kind of what I was talking about. We're going to deadweight this, and then we're going to hold up Sanctuary Smasher First Strike on the Death Toucher. And that should be fine. So we're just going to end our turn. And we're going to hope that they don't really have an instant speed removal spell. Now, if they decide they don't want to attack, we're still going to do this no matter what, as it's just more mana efficient. So this is still only a 1-for-1, even without the trick. So our opponent's really deciding what they want to do here. If they're okay basically trading their Cloud Piercer for my Grim Dancer. Which they might be, looking at the board. Nope, they're going to immediately go to the end of their turn. So like I said, we're going to do this. So we're going to attack. So if our opponent wants to double block, there's no block here where our opponent can trade creature. I hope our opponent understands how this works. Otherwise, they're about to have a very big surprise. That's okay, opponent. Do they have fight as 1? That's the only thing I can imagine that makes this okay. Is fight as 1? They do, which, why didn't you attack then? So let's think here. What do we want to do? We're probably just going to sack this and draw a card. I don't think we care that much, but, and, you know, yeah, we're going to sack this, draw a card. Resolves. So now the question is, do we just want to call the Death Dweller? Or do we want to Hemophage? I think we're gonna, or we could play Tigerilla. I think we're just gonna play Hemophage as a 3/3 Death Toucher. So we know they have the fight removal spell, so this is awkward to do that. And next turn we can just get back our Grim Dancer. Yep, our opponent gets to attack for 5. Oh, bless me. So let's see what our opponent does here. Okay. So we're going to Death Dweller. Get back our Grim Dancer. We're gonna give it lifelink, and doesn't matter. Death Touch, right? And then it gets the other ones. And then no attacks. End our turn. Makes sense. Makes sense. Our opponent just valuing more bodies on the board over 4 life, which is the right play. You know, mutating is not always right. Yeah, they would get to rummage and they get the 4 life, but in the board state we're kind of in, this is just a much better play for them. So I think we are going to attack here again. We're fine trading 2 creatures for this, and we want to activate our Night Squad commandos so that we can start drawing cards with the Bushmeat Poacher. So we could tap out and play the Tigerilla, but I like keeping up all of our sack outlets right now, as it makes our opponent using any removal spell less good. So we even have the option of just double flinging these tokens at the Cloud Piercer as a way to kind of get rid of their best attacker. But we'll see what happens here. Okay, opponents in the tank a little bit. Probably deciding how they want to attack. They're not going to attack at all. So I think I will at that point just trade this in for a card. Not the best card we could have gotten. Or that one. The question is, do we want to attack? Do we want to attack? Our opponent's getting 3 a turn, which is kind of scary. I think we are going to attack. Play our Tigerilla. Give it Menace. And end our turn. We really need to find some removal spells here. Drawing our Whisper Squad. A Coil Bug's a pretty good draw there. So we're going to play out our land. Attack. Play our Coil Bug. How much lands do we have? We have 2, 4, 6, 7. So we don't have enough to bring this back and play it again this turn, but we do have enough to just eat it. And then bring it back if we want. So that's fine. So our opponent might be thinking of attacking. I think this Death Touch creature still very much dissuades them. Yep. And we're going to get back our Coil Bug. So our deck is kind of doing what we want it to do in that we... so that's really good for us. So let's activate ability. Get back our Whisper Squad. And I think it's time we start shooting things. Submit. Get rid of our Coil Bug. And I think we're going to attack, attack, attack. These are all good trades for us. So there's a lot of value that we could get blown out. We can always just sack a creature and draw a card, which is a little bit of protection. But it's also important to remember that you're not trying to play around everything. And then if your opponent have cards, they're going to get to use them. And so you just want to do your best to put yourself in the best position possible when they do use those cards. So everything's fine right now for us. Our opponent will probably free roll the 4/4 attack, and we'll block with the Whisper Squad and just sack it to draw a card. But we now, once again, have this lifelink Death Touch Menace creature, and our opponent's no longer going to be gaining 3 a turn, so we're at least making a small amount of progress here. And with this Coil Bug, I feel very safe that we will have more gas in the tank than our opponent. Our opponent didn't even want to free roll the attack, which is interesting here. So we're going to attack with our 3/3 lifelink Death Touch Menace. Opponent is sitting. Fire Prophecy. So I could draw a card off this, but I think what I actually want to do is just kind of double shoot this 4/4. And then player 2/2. So we're not quite at the point where we can sack this to shoot, get it back, play it, and sack it. That would require 11 mana, 5 to bring it back, and then 6 for the 2 sack triggers and the playing trigger. So this Regal Leosaur is basically meaningless to us because we can just shoot it. So we can play our Heat Bonder. Shoot this. Sack our Coil Bug. I'm probably not playing this as tight as I could be. And we'll just get it back. I probably should have like shot that on their turn. But there's really no big downsides to waiting. And this just lets me pass through their turn. Like, there is a chance that our opponent would have mutated like a 4/4 onto that we would have wanted to shoot. Or our opponent could have just played this 4/4. I imagine he has the fight spell. The way he's highlighting all our creatures. Yep, and he's going to kill our Bushmeat Poacher. So that's a little unfortunate. Question is, do we want to sack a creature to draw a card? I think the answer is no. And so I did get punished for playing that loose, in that if I had just waited, I would have had the shoot the Smasher open. So he probably would have not attacked, as he would have traded it. So if our opponent attacks, we're just going to sacrifice the Coil Bug after a block to ping them for 2. Actually, we might kill one of their X4 creatures. The longer this game goes on, the less confident I am in optimal plays. So I'm trying to think through this. So we're going to sacrifice it, shoot it. Yep. So we're not going to do it in combat. We're going to wait till the end of the turn to shoot this again. Just there's some reason. So it's the end of the turn. Shoot it. In general, when you have things like this, if your opponent uses the pump in combat, I don't think there are any ways to give trample in red in this set, but if there were, that would have been a problem. So we are going to get back our Coil Bug. Our opponent really against free rolling these Vigilance attacks also. Okay, that's not a bad draw for us. Attack. So let's think through this really quick. It's going to cost us 2 to play this, 2 to sacrifice, that's 4, 5 to get it back, that's 9, and then 2 to play it and 2 to sacrifice it again, so that's 13, and we have 8 plus 4, so we're actually 1 land off of that, but we can just play the Coil Bug this turn. And next turn we can shoot this for 4 if we want to. Or anything else that's an X4 or smaller we can kill. Opponent still not free rolling those attacks. So that's a pretty good find. So do we have mana for this now? So if we do want to kill this, it would take, well actually, what we're going to do is we're going to play the Bastion. No matter what. And now we have 9 mana, which is just enough to shoot, get it back, play it. So not enough to shoot again. But what we can do now is we can attack with both. And if they block, we can just shoot it with the token. So we really kind of grinded this game out, which is a little bit more at what the red-black sacrifice excels at. But we did find a lot of our great menace creatures. And we'll just end our turn. Okay. Our opponent finally decides to get that free roll attack. No blocks. Okay. We'll attack with all now because we have the Lurking Deadeye. That's fine. And we can Lurking Deadeye. Kill their Heatbonder, and I'd say the game's going to end pretty soon. I don't know what they have in their hand, that they haven't really been making land drops, and they also, in addition, have not been playing creatures. But, oh, ho, 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 Clash of the Titans. So, the question now is, what do we value more? This 2/2 Heatbonder, or the 4/2, which is basically vanilla now, as the trigger's already on the stack. And we still have another Heatbonder in the deck. So I think I'd rather just have a stronger creature on the board. So we're going to sacrifice this to deal 2 to them. Well, 3. And then that'll fizzle that spell out. So I guess that was one of the cards they had in hand. I'm a huge proponent of Clash of the Titans, but it is awkward when your opponent does have like that kind of sacrifice effect, which stops you from getting great value on it. Okay. We'll attack. So each of these creatures, if sacrificed right now, represents 3 damage. But if our opponent has any life gain, specifically the 1 mana instant that has gain 4 as one of the modes, we would be in a really bad position. So there's no reason to go for the kill when our opponent has open mana and could possibly have that spell. There's no problem with that. So if our opponent has a sacrifice outlet, that's not great for us. We should have sacked a creature, but we haven't seen that out of them, and they've been through most of their deck. So we're just going to target our opponent, sacrifice our creature. Yep, resolves. And we'll just attack for the win there. Okay, easy match. On to round 2. Are on the draw. Opponent goes first. Wow, we've had quite. I think we've gotten a bit unlucky. I'd like to say this is going to be another mulligan here. It's pretty close to keepable. I think with 1 land of any color, I would keep this, as we have a 1 drop in Whisper Squad. We can go get more Whisper Squads, and then we have great 3 drops here. But as is, I think we have to mulligan, as even hitting 1 land isn't great for this. So this is fine. We're going to keep. And we're probably going to put back the Howlbonder. It is one of our better cards as far as like synergy in our deck, and this is a synergy format. We don't have really any of other. Our only other menace card in our hand is the Grim Dancer, and Grim Dancer is so good even without that, and our other cards are also very good. And besides the fact we have 2 Howlbonders. So, Extinction Event's our big bomb if we're getting overrun. Bastion's just really good early. We want this 2-drop just to kind of hopefully have some early board presence, and then that left us basically with 2 repeating 3-drops, and I think Grim Dancer is the better 3-drop. Okay. Opponent's on blue-white. Oh, and just like that, everything's solved. So blue-white is typically not a color pair you see often. The allied color pairs are a little bit less supported, even though we are in black-red. So I'll be interested to see if our opponent has a third color. Yep, so they're probably red-white spell or Jeskai spells, I would guess, based off that neutralize. They could also just be cycling, like blue-white cycling as a deck with Ominous Seas, but it's much more rare than red-white cycling. So I think what we're gonna do here is we're gonna Bastion. There's no counterspell for an enchantment at 2 mana, so if they had Essence Scatter and they were holding it up, we kind of get to Time Walk them in that case. And if they have like a Divine Arrow, well, now they're a little bit less incentivized to just shoot that off. Okay, so maybe they are that cycling deck like I was saying. So we're going to attack. So yes, it is more mana efficient to play the Tigerilla. But if they are the cycling deck, we want to start gaining life, as the cycling deck can kind of put you under this clock of, do I have Zenith Flare? So we're going to get Lifelink Menace. And we're probably going to be mana efficient again next turn when we just play this Howlbonder if they have 2 blockers. And if not, then we will play the Tigerilla. That's very scary. Okay. So we're going to attack all. So our opponent is theoretically doing 10 damage to us next turn. So we're going to play, and these have trample. So what we're going to do is we just want to get bodies on the board, because we need to end this game very quickly, and we need as much of a life padding as possible. So we're playing the Howlbonder, we're playing the Whisper Squad, and next turn we at least have 5 mostly unblockable damage. Now, if they have some removal, that's not great, but I talked about this during the draft. We got our opponent down to 10. They need to somehow kill us without killing 10 creatures of ours. And that's assuming we never hit them again. So right now, this Bastion is going to put in a lot of work for us, and that it's forcing our opponent to do some very sketchy math. If they want to throw a removal spell at our Grim Dancer, that puts them down to 9, and then they're going to take 6, they're at 3, and then it's almost impossible for them to win. We could just kill our own creatures. We could just name even, and we would kill enough creatures. Well, actually, we'd have to name odd to kill these 3. So right now we have 5, 7, 8, 9. So I think we are going to play the Cavern Whisperer. And that'll give us lethal on board here. And if they're choosing to cycle defensively, this will trade for one of them, which is very good for us. Okay, so they discard a cycling card, so obviously they have another cycling card. Now, we're just going to swing in, because what we want to do is we want to get that chip damage, and we want to get these Bastion triggers. Do I leave Whisper Squad back? I don't think I do. I don't think I'm going to have time to get Whisper Squad going. So they need 3 blockers for each of this Whisperer, the Grim Dancer, and the Howlbonder. So they're only, without a removal spell for the Howlbonder, their only legal target to block right now is the Whisper Squad and the 1/1, which would cause them to take lethal damage. Wow, that was not a play I expected. So they do get to eat our 2 creatures, and then they take 3. And then they take another 2. So they're going to take 5 this turn. You don't really see Dampening Sphere casted that often. It's most times it is just a 2-mana cycler. I think our opponent's doing the math in their head that they can't block our menace creatures. Okay, so our opponent's at 5. So like I said, this Bastion is really putting them under pressure where they need to kill us, but they can't kill our creatures. And how do you do that? And the answer is you don't. So once you're in these positions, it can very much just feel like you are. It's impossible for you to win. Even if our opponent, could swing, our opponent would have to swing for 10, somehow not let us attack for lethal and not kill our creatures, and then swing for 10 2 more times. Opponent's using our timeouts, which is fair. This is a very complex, kind of problem to solve for them. So they really want to kill the Grim Dancer as it's giving us lifelink, and if they have any hope of winning, maybe it's just a giant Zenith player at some point. And the higher our life up, and they've done the math, and it came back incomplete. So, things to sideboard. I'm really tempted to sideboard in this Duskfang Mentor. The cycling deck is very scary, and these mentors just giving lifelinks, getting a 4-4 lifelinker, a 6-4 lifelinker, even a 2-2 lifelinker can be huge. So we might be bringing in this mentor here. The Pangolin is good, but we did see 2 of the Reflection, so not as great when they have that payoff. This isn't that great. We do want to keep the deadweights if they have Valiant Rescuers, if they have Stingers. You really want that. But I do think we are going to try to get in this Stinger here. And what are we going to cut for it? I think we're going to cut maybe a Deadeye. Tends to be less of what you want here. As they don't usually involve their creatures in combat, and if they do, they're already going to die. That said, it is one of our few ways to answer a Reptilian Reflection on their turn. Could just cut the Whisper Squads. They don't really do a lot. They are ammo for shooting them. I do want this Duskfang Mentor in. You know what? We're going to roll the bones on it. We didn't see the Zenith player, and I just feel like maybe these answers, if I was going to cut something, it'd probably be one of these 2. But both of these answer the Reptilian Reflection, which is like the actual payoff we saw. Okay, we're going to keep this. It's got the Fire Prophecy, which is our best 2-drop. The 3-drop doesn't do anything yet. And it's got a 4-drop. So it has things we want. Okay. Our opponent just cycling. Once you know your opponent's in the cycling deck, there's a lot less value on holding that turn 1 cycling play. As you're not really surprising anyone when you start cycling on turn 1. This blue does make me feel like they might be... That's a pretty good draw. So do we want to play the Fire Prophecy? We don't have a turn 3 play, so I think we're going to hold to Weaponize the Monsters in the hope that we get to Fire Prophecy something next turn, like a Snare Tactician. The blue makes me feel like they might have the Ominous Seas, which is the cycling payoff that when you draw a card, you put a counter on it, and you remove 8 counters, and you make an 8/8 Kraken. So that could be concerning. We do have quite a bit of Death Touch. Our opponent didn't find a third land. So we are going to play Weaponize the Monsters. Why would you not do that during your turn, opponent, to find a land? Okay. Snare Tactician? Anything but Reptilian Reflection. Opponent. What do I value more? This 4/3 with Menace? I probably just want to play this Death Toucher. So like I was saying, this... Okay. If our opponent has a 1-mana cycler, they do get in for 5. Interesting that they would cycle the Stinger. I assume they have no other 1-mana cycler, and that's why they did that. But I think the Stinger is something I'd rather play when given the choice. Okay, so we're gonna Fire Prophecy this. Just get that out of here. We're gonna get rid of a mountain, draw a mountain, and no attacks. End our turn. So this is definitely a situation. We're on the back foot, but we have some things going for us. So, that's fine. There's no need to sacrifice it right now. And if he does play a Stinger, or he plays something else that we'd want to sacrifice this to destroy, that's good for us. He doesn't have a Cycler in hand to attack, is, I feel like, the signal we're being sold. We're going to play the Tigorilla. Our opponent has Essence Scatter. I guess we'll play the Coil Bug. That's an interesting choice in the cycling deck. So, did our opponent top deck a cycler? Not sure. They did just play a land. I think they missed a land drop last turn. Okay. So we're just going to attack, because if our opponent animates this, we're going to double shoot it. We're not even going to bother to block. We're just going to shoot, because we don't want to take trample damage. So let's see what our opponent can do here. Nothing? I'm very interested to know what's in our opponent's hand. That they're not playing lands. They don't have cycling cards. I feel like it has to just be they're holding more counterspells and they didn't think counterspelling the Coil Bug was worth it. I don't want to play the Smasher just into a counterspell because I like holding up the 4 mana to kill this. Slowly but surely, I guess we are going to do 2 to our opponent. Every time we do 2, we're getting a little bit closer. And at some point, we can hopefully, just weaponize the monsters and shoot our opponent a couple times. Like, that's definitely a win condition for these decks, is that you get your opponent, to 10, and then you shoot 5 monsters at them. Okay, we're going to attack. We'll shoot our opponent. Resolves. So we're going to play a Whisper Squad. And we're going to end our turn. So like I said, we're getting to a point where we're just kind of grinding our opponent out, and we're going to keep shooting them with creatures. If they animate, we will double shoot with the Whisper Squad and the Hemophage. That's unfortunate that we won't get another Whisper Squad, but I don't think dropping to 10 is safe. As they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 creatures right now, or 5 cycling cards, so that's pretty close to just being able to go on a good spree in Zenith Flare. So we're gonna block, see if they do anything. I don't think they will, but you never know. Then we're just going to sacrifice the Hemophage. Is our opponent now putting together that this can shoot creatures? That doesn't change anything. They can cycle. So maybe our opponent thinks if they turn this into a 5/4 a second time, it will not carry the damage over. But that's not exactly how that works. So we're going to shoot it again. Show us what you got, opponent. If you got a trick, you got a trick. Nope. Okay. Not bad for us. Okay, we're gonna get back our bug. Play our bug. We're playing this game really slow, but there's just no reason that we need to play faster right now. Our opponent seems pretty stalled out on threats, and I think you lose these cycling matches sometimes by tapping out, and when you tap out, your opponent just kind of manages to Rude Goldberg their way into an extreme amount of damage. Yesterday I had an opponent tap out against me when I was playing Red-White Cycling, and through Fire Prophesizing my own creature, I managed to find lethal. So Red-White Cycling, you want to keep your options open. So I think we are just going to play this Sanctuary Smasher and kind of see, like, hey, what is our opponent doing? If they have another Essence Scatter, if they have the Neutralize, they've got it. Otherwise, yep, they have the Neutralize. What we might be doing is next turn, Call of the Death Dweller back a Whisper Squad, so that we can get another Whisper Squad, and that'll, that's just helping us find more creatures to shoot with Weaponize the Monster. That's fine. So this makes our Call of the Death Dweller even more appealing, as just having a 1/1 Death Toucher is a great play against what our opponent is setting up here. Yep. And so we need 2 mana to search this out, and we don't want to play our Knights this yet. So I think what we are going to do is just pass. Yeah, we're going to pass. If our opponent just plays this 5/5 haste creature, we're going to block it and search up another one. And we will take 4, unfortunately. There might have been some merit to deadweighting this just to minimize the damage we take. Our opponent didn't play that before moving to combat. Okay. So we're going to block. Go get our Whisper Squad. And now if our opponent just... Yep. That's fine with us. We still have a few removal spells for that. We have our Rumblings. So we're not at a total loss here. So what we're going to do is we're going to attack. I feel like we are kind of reaching a point where we can be on the offensive. Our opponent might not block. They don't block because of the Deadeye. And we can play a Night Squad Commando. And we can play our Bushmeat Poacher. And if our opponent attacks, we will chump. And we will throw a creature at him. And that's kind of where we're at. We're just going to hopefully keep throwing creatures. We're not going to use the Poacher to draw a card right now. We are just going to be throwing creatures at our opponent. And pressuring them to gain life somehow. Or to end the game very quickly. So we're going to block. We could just triple block. But then if our opponent has some kind of trick, we're in a much worse position. Like if our opponent, say, has a Divine Arrow for our Poacher, then we only get to sacrifice one creature and we're going to lose all three. So we're going to instead take it slow. I want to take it slow. Take it a little bit safer. Just block and then throw this at our opponent. So right now our opponent's looking at lethal next turn, unless they play more blockers, as we can attack for 5 and then deal 6 with Weaponize the Monsters. I think during the draft I talked about this, but Weaponize the Monsters is the best payoff you can have in this deck. I kind of undervalued it at first. I thought this had sacrificed 2 creatures to do 2 damage, but it's just so... Having these on-demand spells to throw at your opponent is just so valuable. So possible things our opponent could be doing is perhaps like a Frostveil Ambush. He's going to tap down 2 of our attackers. Otherwise, though, we're just going to attack. Kind of force our opponent to have it. So, here's the thing. If we go for it, and our opponent just Zenith players... So, let's think about this. If we go for it and our opponent Zenith players, then we just get to shoot the last one at them. So we are going to go for it. Our opponent needs basically 2 instances of life gain right now to win the game. Or to stay alive. Okay. Let's see if what's our opponent got. Yep, there it is. So our opponent would also need a way to gain more life. So they probably need that 1 mana life gain spell in white, which if they have it, they have it. I'm not sure we were ever going to get to play around that. Okay, and that's game. So our opponent had a pretty weird cycling deck there, playing Essence Scatters. But we managed to pull through. On to round 3. Round 3, our opponent is deciding if they want to play or draw. And we're 2-0 right now in the finals with our red-black sacrifice deck. So hopefully we can pull through on this. It'd be real nice to get that 3-0 here. Oh, our opponent put us on the play. That's interesting. So if our opponent put us on the play, that probably means they have a bunch of cheap removal. I think I'm okay keeping this hand on the play. As we have like some good kind of reactive things to do here. So we're going to keep. And we'll play our Swamp. And our opponent is doing that, so we're going to play. Not really sure what our opponent's doing here. Are they on Sultai Mutate? Skull Prophet? They might be. A little bit late there, but we'll play our Labyrinth Raptor. Hopefully they don't have an answer to it at this exact second. So I would say if our opponent is Sultai with a Skull Prophet, they might be the Reanimator deck. Probably my favorite deck in the format, but you basically are just playing a bunch of fatties, and you're playing Ramp, and you're playing this Self-Mill. Okay, Ram through works there. And you're just trying to like basically cheat in fatties through Ramp and through reanimation spells, and it's a very, very fun deck. So, the question is, are we going to keep this Lurking Deadeye up? I don't think we just want to Rumbling Rock Slide that. And we already have 5 mana, which makes me feel like I have a better chance of playing the Sanctuary Smasher. So, I think we're just going to keep up Lurking Deadeye. And if they don't attack, we will flash it in. It's just a 4-2. Which isn't a bad play against these kinds of decks, as typically you can just get by on having high power creatures to trade with. But we'll see. Now, if they do attack, we are just going to flash in and block. If they have something, you know, that's going to get us, then they do it. But I'd rather them use a trick on saving their Skull Prophet than something scarier like that. So we're just going to flash in our Deadeye. And I think we're going to Rumbling Rock Slide that Menace creature. I think that's scary enough. And then we get to play Weaponize the Monsters. And do we want to attack here? I think we are going to attack. I think there is a somewhat decent chance our opponent wants to use this for mana. And if that's true, then we just kind of wasted 4 damage. And we also now have Weaponize the Monsters, which makes pushing damage a little bit more valuable to us. You know, as our end game can always just be start throwing creatures at your opponent. So our opponent plays a 4/4. So they didn't need to use this mana, it seems. So we are going to take 3 here. Which is fine. So I think I want to play the Howlbonder and then cycle this. Although maybe I do just want to play a 6/4 first strike creature. Let's attack. See what our opponent does. If they're fine, just trading 4/4 for 4/4, that's fine. Okay, so we're going to play our Sanctuary Smasher. And we're really going to hope our opponent doesn't have, like, just a Blood Curdle. If they have a Blood Curdle, then we're going to bad time. So we're going to see what's happening here. Definitely that attack might have been greedy. I'm willing to admit that, but the fact that our opponent didn't just instant fire off a Blood Curdle makes me feel a little bit better. Okay, that's good for us. Now they might just have a mutate, yep. So they're going to make themselves a little bit bigger of a creature. Get to make a 4/5. Gain some life. What would we like to draw here? Really just another Rumbling Rock Slide, but perhaps that's hoping for too much. We'll see though. It's probably not what we were looking for. We're going to play our Howlbonder. And we're going to play our land as it just kind of allows us to double shoot. Now, we could attack, right? Like, we attack, and, you know, worst case scenario is we're blocking and shooting this, but the problem is that this Wolf Bear will make this big enough to be a problem. So we can't attack. So we're in a pretty tricky spot where if our opponent draws removal, we're having a really bad time. We'd like to find a Whisper Squad here, Night Squad Commando, anything that's really just going to help us, you know, start shooting off. But we'll see what happens. Okay. Interesting. They have a 6-drop. They're just getting back their 4/4 with Menace. Which I assume they're going to mutate onto. So the good thing is, if they do mutate, we can double block. Shoot the Sanctuary Smasher creature at it, and then First Strike will still kill it, even though it might be too big. They do get to search for a basic land. So we're going to deadweight the Skull Prophet, as it makes our lives much easier. As now we can kind of just attack. This does have Menace. I don't know if we're still attacking. It's tough to think about. So we attack. They double block. We shoot down this, and then they're blown out. I think we have to attack. I think we have to, like, start pushing damage. Hopefully they don't see the onboard tricks and they just double block, but, you know, we'll see how it goes. Oh, they are now reading Weaponize the Monsters. I believe they are onto our tricks. Yep. So I definitely don't know how many more times they can just keep taking attacks from us is important. We do have 6 damage on the board. So if they just attack, right, they attack for 6, we take it, we drop to 8, and then we attack all. They take 6, and we shoot them for 6, and they're dead if they don't have another creature. So this does put them in a pretty interesting position where they didn't block because obviously that would have been bad for them. But attacking without more creatures to block puts them in a bad position, especially if we, that puts them dead to us top decking a removal spell, even if they only play one more creature. Okay, they're going to play the Hornbash Mentor. So they're probably going to give the 6/6 trample. Yep. They're going to draw 2 cards. So in this case, if they attack, I might just double block. And, we'll take 2. But, that's a pretty good trade for us. So our opponent decides not to attack, I believe is what that's saying to me. No, they're in attackers now. Opponent's really, really stumped about if they should attack. I don't think they can afford to attack, because we're going to take this 6, and then if we take 6 again, that's still not lethal, and we can just chump these 2 next turn. Our opponent is burning through these timeouts. Yep, our turn. So that's not a bad draw. We're going to attack. So I would like to hold the Fire Prophecy till next turn, as that would allow us to, hopefully shuffle back, put back a land. But if our opponent triple blocks, then we're gonna have to Fire Prophecy. But we'll see how it goes. Our opponent, does it tell you how many timeouts your opponent has anywhere? I don't think so. Our opponent has to be out of them soon, I imagine. They've timed out almost every phase. Okay. Are they going for the triple block, or are they just going to chump? That's fine. So now do I want to kill this? I don't think this being a 7/7 really matters to me that much. And if they tap it to make it a 7/7, then that's fine. Because, then I can hold up this if they're thinking, oh, I can block with my 7/7 next turn. Okay. Our opponent probably drew a land, which means I can't imagine their decisions have changed that much since last turn. So I think our opponent's on make me a 7/7 and hopefully block, but that doesn't get around the fact that I can always just throw a Howl Bonder at them. So I'm not entirely sure what our opponent's plan is. I mean, let's see. They could always also be at Ultimatum. They are at Ultimatum mana. They're at the green Ultimatum. Wow. Say it and it happens. So they get 3 monocolored cards. I choose one of them, and then they get to put the other 2 cards without paying their mana costs. That's kind of terrifying. I don't know what they have left in their deck, but that is terrifying. So let's see what our opponent can find. Okay, wait. So I think we're fine giving them Colossification. Oh, that was wrong. Oh, that was very wrong. Oh no. That was very wrong. We wanted to give. Oh no. Um, help. I've made a mistake. Help. Yep. Oh no. So that's 9, and then we shoot, and that's 11. Okay. Oh no, I've made so many mistakes. I feel so dumb right now. I wanted to give them Colossification and Titanoth Rex. Oh, this board is so much less scary if that's what their board looks like. And these both have trample now, so we're probably just dead. Yeah, yeah, there were some mistakes made. That's an understatement. That's fine. So we have. I think I have to shoot the Cavern Whisperer and hope to find something good here. No, don't do that. No, that's wow, that punt. Wow, I feel so bad about doing that. I've just never played against that card. I didn't realize I picked. Well, I guess I had read it. I just didn't realize the repercussions I was about to embark on. So our opponent is this kind of like big Sultai deck. So I think we actually are going to cut these dead weights, and we are going to pick up these tenuous connections. Um, I feel bad about that. That was a big punt. Okay, we're gonna play first. We're gonna keep the decent enough hand with Extinction Event. Um, if we get behind, we can always just shoot off an Extinction Event. Man, Extinction Event. Wow, if we had top deck Extinction Event last game on Odd to kill Rex and the Menace creature. Our opponent's already gone to 6. I don't know if they've gone to 5 yet. Okay, they did go to 6, so we'll play our swamp. Going to 6 isn't that bad on the draw, because you do get a card from on that first turn draw. Okay, they've played a Brush Swag. So we're gonna play Weaponize the Monsters, and that's not bad because now we have Tentative Connection, Weaponize the Monster set up. So we've got our kind of big removal combo. So if our opponent's plan is just to mutate onto Brushy, we do have an answer to that eventually. Okay, pretty good to find a creature there. Especially a creature that blocks the almighty Brushwag. But we'll see, we'll see. Does our opponent have Essence Scatter? Anticipate. Definitely not something I was expecting from our opponent. While they do have the Titanoth Rex Unbreakable Bond combo, it did feel like their deck doesn't necessarily need to dig towards that, since they had a pretty flat power curve outside of the ultimatum. Okay. Essence Symbiote. And they pass. That's great. So our opponent can't even block. So I think we'll just attack. And turn with the idea that we're pretty okay just flashing this in. As a threat, we kind of want to put pressure on our opponent right now. They did mulligans. They're down a card. We have this 2/2 attacker. So we do have options here. And if we do kind of bust out, our opponent, stabilizes, we have Extinction Event as a good fallback. Yep. And if our opponent just wants to pay, 4 so that they can attack us for 6, that's not really that big of a deal. Because we can attack them back for 6. So we're going to play our Lurking Deadeye. So Extinction Event, update. We're both of us are on 1 odd, 1 even creature. So let's see what our opponent's going to do here. Could they be rammed? They might have rammed through. They're going to ram through the Essence Symbiote on the Lurking Deadeye. I think that's fine. That ram through was never going to get, much better or worse as long as we had weaponized the monster mana up. Yep. I think that's fine. And we can play our Tigerilla, pick Menace. We now have 2 Menace enablers for Tentative Connection. So, even if they kill 1, we still have enough mana to both take a creature and throw it somewhere. So we'd really just like to see our opponent mutate. Like, we'd love them to just mutate a big creature, attack for some amount, and then we get to take it, we get to swing for a bunch of damage, and we get to then throw it at the Brushwag and their board's clear. But we'll see what we get. Our opponent passes. So they right now cannot block either of these creatures. Without a third creature, they can't block either of them. And the fact that they didn't just attack and then kind of, I feel like, hold up the pump. But I'm kind of willing to see what my opponent has. Did they not? Maybe they thought they could double block. I feel like they're now thinking they could have double blocked. And we're going to keep up Weaponized now. There's no reason. We're kind of winning on board. It's up to our opponent to start doing things. So the one thing to be scared of right now is the Shore Shark, I believe. Jumping Shore Shark, Pouncing Shore Shark. Because if they can bounce this before blockers, then they would have legal blocks on this again. And they would get to eat this, basically. Or they would trade, because it would get the +1/+1 counter. So that's probably the worst thing that could happen for us right now. But otherwise, I think we're pretty happy with what's going on here. What you gonna do, opponent? Okay, they're gonna pass. Yep, that's fine, pass. Are they just gonna pump Brushy? Yep. Get in for 6. So I think what we are going to do now is we're going to tentative connection the symbiote. Keep safe. You got it. So good to get that out of their way now. You know, if they want to attack and they want to pump again, that's kind of fine. They're attacking for 6. If they want to mutate, you know, as long as it's not lethal damage, that's fine. We are a little stuck on mana as our big issue. But our opponent needs, you know, more blockers. They have to find more blockers because we have this Howl Bonder. So if they attack, it really makes me feel like they don't have more blockers. And so they're just doing the best they can. And they're hoping that we will throw a creature to not die. To a pump spell. But we'll see. We'll see. Pretty close game. Only attacking for 2. That brings me back to worrying about the pumping or the shore shark. So if they bounce, we're just going to sacrifice it because there's not a lot of time left for us to replay it, probably, in this game. And if we do replay it, it's going to be off a Call of the Death Dweller. What's our opponent doing over there? They want it. That's fine. That doesn't. So we're going to take 3, right? But that doesn't matter too much to us. They will not have that much time to use the extra card. The 2 life is the big thing there, but that still gives us lethal next turn, right? We're attacking for 6, and we can shoot for 2. We can shoot for 4. So we still have lethal next turn even with that. So they need to find a removal spell there, or they need to find 2 blockers. That doesn't do it. So we kill them next turn. Yep, my turn. So we just attack. And we're going to shoot him. Okay. Making up for that horrific punt in game 1. But we'll see. We'll see. I think the tentative connection was good there. I do think that maybe there is some value in these lurking deadeyes. Or I'm sorry, in the deadweights there. But I just don't know what I would like to bring in for that. Maybe I just get rid of these lurking deadeyes. They didn't look that great in either of the games. And seeing the octopus kind of makes me feel like if I can slow them down, we have some hope. So I am going to take out 1 lurking deadeye, bring back in 1 deadweight, and see how that goes. Okay, so we are game 3, round 3 in the finals. We'd really like to get that 3-0. I think our deck is pretty good. I think we have a really good chance here. I think our removal lines up pretty well against our opponent on, the Sultai Mutate kind of deck. But it's just a matter of playing out the games and, getting a little bit lucky and a little bit of skill. Okay. Our opponent did. Is this the opponent that let us play last time? I believe it is. So hard to remember. Yeah, we go first. So we're gonna keep. It's got a coil bug. We need to find a red source, but I think you can keep this. Our opponent being on the draw is interesting. Maybe they're on the draw because their deck just mulligans more. They don't have any fixing, and they're playing probably pretty heavy 3 colors from what we can tell, based on the main deck keep safe. So maybe they're just like, that might be their thought process, is if they're going to mulligan more often, they'd rather be on the draw. I'm also now realizing our opponent's deck is 51 cards. That must be because of their self-mill. So if we don't draw a land next turn, we're probably going to cycle Memory Leak. If we do draw a land, we'll probably just play Memory Leak to see what they're doing over there. So I think we are going to Memory Leak. They have that ultimatum, which is kind of scary. And now we can kind of see that their hand is not that scary. So we're going to take... Ooh, maybe I was supposed to pick... I wonder if I was supposed to pick the Coil Bug, knowing... because it exiles it. But that also feels very far off from mattering here. Okay. So our opponent has 1 unknown card. I don't want to say we got lucky, but we definitely just got lucky. That 1 unknown card is something they can play. Oh, it's not Essence Scatter, thank God. And no attacks. We're still kind of hoping we can trade off with the Skull Prophet. So next turn, we will Rumbling Rockslide this and attack, if we don't get presented a better target. But the fact that right now our Tigerilla double trades is pretty decent for us. And we kind of know our opponent's on nothing. Yeah, so we'll Rumbling Rockslide that. I'm not too invested in keeping our Ferocious Tigerilla alive to make Tentative Connection cheaper, because we don't have either of our sacrifice outlets just yet. So I'm perfectly happy to just Rock Slide this guy. They didn't leave open Keep Safe, is a good thing to recognize there. And we'll just attack. If they want to double block and trade with the Tigerilla, that's fine. Not sure what our opponent's really thinking about. They also might self-mill if they have one of their important cards for that. So if they do, like, if they, happen to get a Titanoth Rex and get it back, importantly, we do have this to give one of our creatures Death Touch, which matters to us. Does our opponent have a combat trick? Okay. So our opponent might just spend their turn getting back to Coil Bug. We're kind of drawing a little bit rough right now in that we're relying on the top of our deck for good plays. But that's a pretty good play to get. Especially because it allows us to, we're going to trade the Coil Bug off. And then we will just get it back, and then we'll have 2 Menace creatures attacking every turn. Because we're definitely interested in trying to end this game as soon as possible. I imagine our opponent's also just going to play the Coil Bug, and then pass. And that'll be pretty much it. I can't think, if they have another 2-drop, that would be a little scary. As then they would have 3 blockers if they had another 2-drop, which would allow them to basically trade with the Howlbonder. And that's it. Okay. Wow, that's a great find for us. So we're going to attack. And we're feeling pretty confident at this point. So in fact, I'm just going to play Labyrinth Raptor. And I don't even want to call it the Death Dweller because I would like to get back this Labyrinth Raptor if it dies. Right? Like, we can get back Durable Coil Bug next turn if we have nothing better to do. So that's not a huge loss for us. And right now our opponent's at a place where they need 3 blockers to block a Menace creature. And they need to sacrifice 1 if they do. So right now these 2 creatures are presenting a lot more value to us. Okay. Colossification. Oh, opponent! Oh no, opponent! Oh, I had the. Oh. I'm so sorry, opponent. Oh. Well, that's one way to trophy. So that was great. Yep, definitely smiling after that. Makes up for my big punt in game 1. So that's the old 3-0 right there. We'll take one more look at this deck. But that was a pretty good way to end the league. So don't forget to like and subscribe, and new videos will be up every Thursday and Sunday. Till next time.